Thanks for joining us for our first movie after party as we review the movie The Martian, otherwise known as...
I'm going to science the heck out of this thing.
That's right. And this is the first time we've done it this way. We're going to do this entirely different from what we've done our reviews in the past. Instead of giving you our rating in our theatrical review or thematic review, we've invited you to view this movie on your own and help us review it. And more importantly, find the Christian themes in the movie. Find those stories that can become a parable for you with a deeper message that you can deliver to somebody else. But before we begin, there are a couple of other events and things I want to cover first. And these are things that are coming up with this channel and some other events that are happening. So the first one is I'm going to be releasing a book July 1st. This is a short story. It's not a full-blown book. It's a short story called A Taste of Earth. When is a planet-killing meteor more than just a rock? When a crash lands on Earth, triggering a catastrophic event that pushes humanity to the brink and then rethinks its decision. And then scientists Depeche, Dakota, and Irene must discover the mystery of this enigmatic object before its destructive power leads to global extinction. Now, this is already available for pre-order on the usual suspects. We've got it on Amazon, Apple, and most other outlets. If this sounds like something you'd like to read, if this is up your alley, I can send you an advanced reader copy. And the way to do this is by signing up on my Patreon account. The link for it is in the description for this video. I am working on other methods to sign up for advanced readers, and I'll be releasing those soon. Now, the goal of advanced reader copies is to have reviews available on the day of launch, which is July 1st. And this should be easy since it's a short story. It's only 7,000 words. So, I mean, you could do that, I think, well within an hour. So, what would... we took a poll, and this is for next week's after party. We have an additional one coming up. This is next Tuesday, 6/18. We looked at either doing Interstellar or Arrival.
Interstellar, really?
Yes.
Interstellar. Guys.
Hey, look, it's ahead. You may not like it.
Hey, do me a favor. Go change your votes. You can do that. You can change. Everyone vote the other one.
You really don't like it.
I don't much care for it.
Well,
I'll still do it. Don't get it wrong. I'll still do the
we'll do an after party review just like we did this one, depending on how successful this is, and then we'll do the others coming up.
It'll also be really funny just to see all of them switch over all at once and then switch back, switch over, switch back.
No,
I would think it's funny.
Well, so if you look, I'm about to put the announcement that it's going to be Interstellar, because you look how much further ahead. It's almost 80-20. Now, I haven't seen Interstellar yet. I'm going to make a confession here. I haven't seen it. So it's the first time for me to watch it. Okay. And I got my kids saying, Dad, you got to see this. This is great. So I've been putting it off for a while. So this will give the opportunity. But I have seen Arrival, and I thought Arrival was pretty good. We'll probably do a review on both. I don't know if they'll both be after-party reviews, but we'll give it a shot on both. So right now, as it stands, get ready, because Interstellar is next Tuesday, and we'll see what happens.
I'll watch it again with you guys if you come on here and join me. And
now remember,
this review. We
are looking for Christian themes in here. So the goal is to dig for those nuggets and look for that. Now, let's then, so the way we're going to do this is really off the cuff. And it's not our traditional going by and doing the ratings and everything like that. So what I'm going to do to help kick it off is I've got some clips here that we can look at just at the beginning, just to set the mood and everything, and then we can keep going. I see that we already do have some people in the chat, and if you want to either type in for chat-wise or call in, that's why we got the headphones here, so we can do an actual call in, and there should be...
There's a link at the top at the live chat.
Okay, so the live chat has...
Live chat, top of live chat. Just click on it. You'll come on here with us. You just put in whatever name you want, and you can join.
Okay.
Come and have fun.
Right. Even if you haven't seen the movie and just want to razz us or something like that, we can do that too. But we're looking for ways to critique either critiquing the movie or looking at what your impressions were, looking for those deeper themes there that you see that could be used as a springboard for conversation for the gospel. What deeper themes? You can even just think of the overall picture of the movie itself. A guy trapped on Mars, right? And how he survives. Scary. And by the way, I do have to say this right off the bat. This is spoiler territory. This entire
an after party after you've watched the movie has spoilers in it. Shocker!
Go figure. That is it. And I have to use my my crocheted coffee mug that my daughter made for me. This is, you can't even see it with the shirt, but cute little thing that she made. She's like crocheting everything she can. She did a moth recently, so go figure on that. Yes, a moth. All right, so the first clip that I'm going to put up here, and keeping an eye on any of the comments, is the original, the cinematography that was done on this movie. I thought was
beautiful.
Pretty good.
It's very pretty.
Now, you say, okay, it's CGI, whatever. You know what, guys? As far as I could tell, this is accurate.
Hey, I didn't see them go to Mars to videotape this thing, so therefore, it's not trustworthy.
That's true. They did not film this on location.
On site.
Yes, nope. That's right. Yeah, but now there were some technical errors that they had in this, but this would be considered hard science fiction.
Yes.
The definition of hard science fiction is you actually, the science is the big part of it and not so much the fiction. So if this were to be, let's say, if you were to write this as maybe a Star Wars story, put it in that and not Disney-fied it.
I about to say, I ain't Disney.
No. So this is, let's say it's not a U.S. or NASA astronaut stuck on Mars. Let's say it's somebody stuck on Tatooine before it's been populated or something like that. How would you write this as a Star Wars story? How would this be different, for example, on that?
It'd be a lot softer.
How would it be softer?
A lot softer science level. You have to dumb it down a little bit for a good Star Wars level.
You would, and there'd probably be some whole force thing going on in there too. And maybe some hand waving with the technology, since it's futuristic, you can get away with that kind of stuff. But being hard science fiction, they were using today's technology more or less to be able to do this. So that was one aspect that I would give them thumbs up on with this. There was one reservation I had with this story, not thematically, but theatrically. And I don't know if you guys did you have any reservations on this at all?
I thought all in all it worked out quite well. No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think all in all I really enjoyed it. It's not action-packed. I think it's rated R, technically speaking.
You know what? I didn't even check to see what the ratings were.
I think it's rated, I think.
Because was that because of the butt shot?
Probably because of the butt shot.
I was going to say, what else is?
And language.
Yeah, language and maybe some very little violence. I mean, he's bloody, gets injured and things like that. But that's, wow.
Yeah, it's very.
I would have said PG-13 at the most.
It's very mild in a lot of ways.
Yeah. So opening scene then, they have, just talk a little bit more about the scenery that is involved in these shots with it. Stunning, both on Mars and then in space with their wide shots and then close up there also. One of the things that they got wrong with this is the amount of gravity that's there. I think it's 60% of Earth gravity. I was looking that up, but I had lost my figure for it. But you don't see them partially bouncing, not as much as you see on the moon, but they're not really bouncing around like you would expect an actual astronaut to be on Mars. It'd be a lot less. And you also have...
We got negative contact on the proximity radar.
Nothing?
Nah, I can barely see the hat.
Commander, I know you don't want to hear this, but Mark is dead.
Commander.
So they're out there and they get lost. And that was a little bit earlier. I want to show the accident first. So they're set up. The storm comes sweeping in, and not to be critical about the story, but there's another technical flaw with the accident as well. This storm is coming in. It almost looks like hurricane force winds or something. It's tilting over their launch vehicle, and
you need a lot more atmosphere for that.
You actually do. From what I was reading, since the atmosphere on Mars is so light, both because of the gravity of Mars and the solar winds, because there's no radiation belts that are protecting it from solar winds. But since it's so light, you would just get like a slight breeze. That's probably the most that you would get on Mars, not these conditions that we see here with the initial.
Commander, we're at 10 degrees and the map is going to tip at 12.3. Hey! We might be able to keep the map from tipping! How? Use the cables with the Craftmaster skyline! Anchor it with the Rover!
Warning, suit breach detected.
So you have that loss of signal that happened there, but that's it's an inciting event. If you have to be able to have that.
Unfortunately, that kind of defeats the entire movie.
If he's
set up, if it would have been a light breeze.
Well, you could have some other event going on, because there's like maybe the caverns. He falls down. They think he's lost in the cavern. He's buried, but he's actually still there. There's no telemetry since lost of signal. You might be able to get away with that. But you're right that would kind of defeat the purpose of the whole movie. Leaving him for dead is what really started.
No, I think all in all, though, I think this is really what, other than just, it's kind of campy how they get him into the situation to begin with. Kind of bit of errors in that. But all in all, I think it's well driven by character.
Oh yeah. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to be too picky on this. I would have given it a 10 had it not been for something else later in the show. It knocked it down a peg, because I think they were doing some political maneuvering, I think, that they may have done with the movie. I may be totally wrong, but we'll see. So there's some other events that happen here as well. There's the inciting event that happens. There's the accidents, and then once he recovers, they've already taken off, because he's
all alone.
They don't have much of a choice, right? Because they have to leave.
They have to leave.
I'm alive, obviously, but I'm guessing that's going to come as a surprise to my crewmates and to NASA. And to the entire world, really. So, surprise.
That's the other thing here too, is the humor in here.
It's well paced.
Yeah. Now I read the book. I didn't finish it, but I was reading the book, and there's a lot more on the technical side, and I like it as an engineer. To me, it's not boring. I like what would you do in this situation? How would you, they say science the heck out of it. Is that really what's happening here? Is it science, or is it, I would say it's more engineering, because it's applied science. Science is discovering the principles of the universe, where engineering is applying those principles, and being a technician is fixing everything the stupid engineer got wrong. So that's the hierarchy.
That sounds about right.
So I'm looking at the chat for any comments coming in here. And again, if you guys want to, you could call in. We've got both set up here as well. And we're just going to keep pacing through. If you have seen this and you want to chime in with your own response, your own impressions of the movie, any objections, insights, right? Anything that you see specifically, the biggest thing is thematically that we want to be able to see what you have for here. So we have so there's the inciting event that happens. He gets taken away. Then he crawls out, and he makes this log, but it's not really a signal communication back to Earth, because they really he doesn't have any method to speak directly to them. not only that, but there's the time difference between the two.
Yeah, it's like 12 minutes, right?
It varies. I think it gets down to 30. They mentioned 32 minutes somewhere.
32 minutes. That's
Yeah,
horrendous for a conversation.
it is. It is. So if you think about it, Earth and the Moon, they're not in lockstep orbit around the Sun. So the distance between the two will vary over time as they each have their own rotation around the Sun. And sometimes those come in sync and then they split up and they're closer. So when you launch a vehicle from the Earth and you're heading for the Moon, you want to hit it at that optimal time.
Mars?
Sorry, what did I say?
Moon.
Yeah, sorry.
Not the
To
moon.
Mars. No, the Moon.
It's slightly further.
That's right.
Slightly further, slightly bigger.
Distance to the Moon is usually, it does have an elliptical orbit, so it's not always the same. But Mars would be much harder. Any other planet in the solar system would be harder to get your timing to. That would be another thing that happened here too, is that once he was stranded, there is a 4-year gap before anybody can get to him. So we're going to take a look at these scenes. And as we go through these scenes, make some comments, make some your own observations, your own insights into them, and give us a call. You can either do it in a chat or you can give us a call with the link that is in the chat. You can do that too. So the next one I wanted to look at is he had that first log, but we're going to continue looking at his log that he's making after he basically does self-surgery and sends these signals back.
I have no way to contact NASA. And even if I could, it's going to be 4 years until a manned mission can reach me. And I'm in a hab designed to last 31 days. If the oxygenator breaks, I'm going to suffocate. If the water reclaimer breaks, I'll die of thirst. If the hab breaches, I'm just going to kind of implode. And if by some miracle none of that happens, eventually I'm going to run out of food. So, yeah.
So here's the gist of the story.
Very bad day.
Yeah, so I was thinking about a couple other movies that this would have been similar to. One would have been Apollo 13. This would be good to do a comparison between this movie and that, because that was an actual event that happened with one of the Apollo missions having technical issues, and these guys could have died. They were rescued, and some of the ideas they did, talking about engineering the snot out of it, is that they figured out how to do things with all sorts of off material at hand. And so that's what Mark Wahlberg does here in this story. There's another one that we watched recently too that had a similar, you're stuck and you've got to use your wits about you.
You're talking about the time trap thing?
No.
Because they didn't use very many wits in that movie.
No.
It was annoying.
No. There was, and I had it listed here, but I don't remember seeing. If anybody here remembers in the chat, we'll see what happens. Yes, he said a very bad, that's a horrible, very bad day. That's a horrible day. Very bad, no good day. You could say at the very least. So he's stuck there. He makes it. He can make this log, but he still can't communicate with them back on Earth. There's no way that he can communicate with them, right? Well,
he's going to MacGyver this thing up.
That's right. The first thing that you come across here, though, is he realizes in this last clip that there's no hope. He doesn't blame those people that left him. He understands that they thought he was dead because the communication in his suit was knocked out. It looked like he had no life support. He had no signal. And so what he does instead is think that, what would you do? Let me just put this to you. What would you do in this situation? If you're in this helpless spot, there's nothing you could do. Now, this is more of an emotional thing. So you may say, well, I would do such and such, but really being put in the spot, you may not do it.
No, I think his reactions here are actually very Christ-like in a lot of ways. First of all, it's forgiveness, because he could have chosen to hold that against his team.
Right.
He could have chosen to be like, no, they left me. They abandoned me here to die.
Yep.
Yeah, they might not have noticed, but they could have at least tried to get me, and they didn't even try. That could have been his attitude, and instead he chose not to pursue that bitterness, but to forgive and move on.
So that's a really good point. What would you the first step is forgiveness, and he has a real drive. This character was fantastic in terms of his drive to not give up, to keep on going, to persevere. Right. So those are two great fruits of the spirit. Then to look at this and apply and say, hey, would you say thematically that's something here?
I'd say that his attitude, the joy that he has. He's making jokes. He's being funny the entire time, which is entertaining for the audience, but also shows that he is able to laugh in the face of absolute despair.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got a comment here from Thomas Hall. He says, completely against suicide, but in that case, it would definitely be on my mind. Okay, so that's a very good point. I mean, the odds are astronomical of him being able to get off.
Yeah.
Because you look at the number of days that if everything is perfect, if nothing breaks down, which would be, they just had an example of everything breaking down with the storm coming through. If everything runs perfectly, and these are government supplies, by the way, so who knows?
Not the best of quality.
No axe to grind against NASA here, but he does choose to hold on. He does choose to continue. I don't know how many times I've heard of women being told by their gynecologists, their obstetricians, saying, your baby has severe medical problems, will not survive, or if she does survive, she's going to be a vegetable or have a terrible life. And so the mother is faced with the opportunity then say, terminate the pregnancy, which basically kill the child. But I've heard of many who decided, no, I'm going to keep going. And the doctor, what's that?
Go ahead.
And the doctors are wrong.
Yeah.
Now that's not always the case. They could also be correct, but
I mean, even if that's 1%, though, that's still a large amount of kids.
Yeah.
Even if the doctors are wrong, 1%.
Not giving up. How many times have we been in relationships where it's just been awful and terrible? Now, sometimes where you gotta cut the line, but continue to press in, continue to persevere with that other person, and then it ended up being a good thing. God's done with that with us, right?
I've had that happen, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're terrible with God, and yet He continues to persevere and give us a chance. That would also be a military mindset to go on despite the obstacles.
Now, he's not military though in this.
No, he's NASA.
He's a botanist.
Yes, correct.
He's
And
a scientist.
yes,
He's a nerd.
many of the first astronauts did have a military.
I'm just going to keep going.
You can keep adding to that. Yes, this is a nerd fest, man. We'll champion the guy here. That was me, born 3 months premature. Wow, you wanted to get an early start in life, and I credit my mother's determination as a large part of why I made it. Fantastic. Yeah. And so here's an example. But your earlier statement is still correct in saying that this may be a place where someone could just say they're going to give up altogether.
If you look at the movie and say that, well, if you were just given up to begin with, I mean, got back there, he's all there, all alone on this planet, all by himself. How many opportunities did he miss?
For what?
If he would have committed suicide at the beginning.
Oh,
how many opportunities would he have missed? I mean, it was not an easy journey.
No.
But through perseverance, it ends pretty decent.
Yeah, so he does change. He walks through. He's got this. It's like Abraham. Abraham knew the situation. His wife laughed at that. God comes and talks to him. He's 100 years old. And God says, you're going to have children. You're going to be a father of many. And his wife laughs, and she gets her name changed. But he says, okay, let's do this. And it's not that people of faith, the Christians, or in this case, Jewish people, would have just disregarded, been blind to reality. Abraham said, saying, oh, yeah, I'm like a 20-year-old. No, what he did is he faced the reality, and then he knew that God was greater. than what the circumstance was. So this is, Mark comes to the same kind of situation, the same kind
I
of...
have no way to contact NASA. And even if I could, it's going to be 4 years until a manned mission can reach me. And I'm in a hab designed to last 31 days. If the oxygenator breaks, I'm going to suffocate. If the water reclaimer breaks, I'll die of thirst. If the hab breaches, I'm just going to kind of implode. And if by some miracle none of that happens, eventually I'm going to run out of food.
That was his situation when he was looking at it face to face. He says, it's basically hopeless. But then after a while,
I'm not gonna die here.
he takes the bull by the horn and he says that this is, he says, I'm not going to give in. I'm not going to surrender. I'm going to fight. And that determination is there. So would you say that that is one of the fruits of the spirit and be a good encouragement for someone to say, hey, fight like this guy, even though this is fictitious. This guy's just made up.
I don't think it's technically fruit of the spirit.
Perseverance?
Oh, perseverance, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So steadfastness. Yes.
I did think
What?
to what is it? To science the heck out of this thing was a fruit of the spirit. But okay, we'll go with it.
Yeah. Yep. So once he's in that situation, though, he's got to do something. He's got to figure out how he's going to be able to survive. So he does the whole food thing. The food, if everything works, so he's making an assumption that everything's going to be working. All he needs to work on primarily is making sure his food supply is going to last, and even stretching out as far as he can. It's not going to. He has to rely on potatoes. Actually,
They are really good as far as survival food goes.
yes, and this one has won through the winter and it's ready for plants. It's past time for planting. This almost looks like some kind of alien creature. But being able to use that, and that was probably one of the best things he had, right? In the food supply,
yeah, absolutely.
to be able to grow and then figure out how he's going to do fertilizer. He doesn't have, the soil's basically dead on Mars, so he has to add all the right kinds of bacteria and everything like that to put this all together. So how is he going to do this? He needs to have water, and he actually does it through chemical process, right? Creating
water.
Yeah.
Well, not really creating water, just smashing things together until water forms.
But it is a chemical process, and he needs fire to do that. He doesn't have anything combustible in the area to do that with.
So everything they sent us up here with is flame retardant, with the notable exception of Martinez's personal items. I am sorry, Martinez, but if you didn't want me to go through your stuff, you shouldn't have left me for dead on a desolate planet. By the way, I'm figuring you're going to be fine with this, given my present situation. Counting on you.
I think it's probably as close to prayer that we get in the whole movie.
Yeah.
But that was kind of ironic there.
Now it does burn the cross in the end, though, right?
Yeah, well, he uses it because he breaks it up. That's what he was using
Yeah.
for the fire and everything, to be able to have the chemical process go through. I don't think I would say this is necessarily the wrath of God, because you understand the situation. He wasn't doing it as a sacrilegious. He was using it as a method for combustion.
Human life is more valuable than
Correct.
little stick figures.
Absolutely. And not all religions view it that way.
No,
is that correct?
Definitely not. There are some religions out there that value a book much more than human life.
Yeah. The message in the book is the most important, but yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Not for here. So does it work for him is the question as he goes through. So you got to add something for the humor here.
So, yeah, I blew myself up.
Yeah, it's a Tuesday. I blew myself up.
You know, that's the other thing here too. It doesn't not really a fruit of the spirit, but you imagine not being able to survive long in a situation like this unless you do have a sense of
Well,
humor.
it's joy.
Oh,
Being able to have joy in a hopeless situation.
right.
So there you go.
Yeah. I think one of the advantages that Christians do have is that there's the companionship with God, that you can rely on that relationship with him, even in solitary conditions like this. So I'm going to look at the chat a little bit here, and we have one from Sherry. She says, theme, value of one human life. Okay, that's a great one. We do, by the way, if you're just joining us, we do have call-ins, and that's why we have the headphones here, so you guys can call in live and give us your feedback. Value of one human life. They go to, okay, let's see what she just added to it. Value of one human life from the perspective of the team and all on Earth. Yes. The team votes to do this later in the movie too, right? They vote to return, even though they're going to be in space over 500 days.
That's a long time.
And some of these astronauts have family at home with little kids. They're missing a good section of their children's lives being up there to save this guy, to go back and grab him. And it could fail, right? So it's not 100% guarantee that they're going to be able to do it. Thomas said, I think I would be, one second here. I think it would be an idol for him not to burn the cross in this case. Weird as that sounds, life is the higher principle. I would agree with you that it's symbolic. It has reference to something. And I think if you disrespect the symbol being God and you're bashing the cross because you want to get back at God or you want to defile Christianity somehow, that's where the bad part is. But if you are using it as a means to sustain life.
And it's also, I think one of the main points is not an actual idol. It's not an idol.
No.
It's just a piece of wood.
Right.
I had a discussion with a Muslim that was upset that we have crosses in our churches.
Okay.
I said, they're not idols. He said, it's a violation of the 10 Commandments. I said, no, they're not idols. They're just symbols. There's a big difference between the two.
If I were to sit down and show that symbol with so much respect of like burning, sacrificing animals to it or whatever, and believing that was the means by which I had my salvation, then it would be...
Yeah, it would be an idol.
That would be an idol in that
Valuing it above what it actually is.
Right. So we got another comment from Prowl32. Oh, that's the reason why you guys have headphones. I thought you guys just got done playing a video game. Well, no. We could. Yeah, we're both listening to music. We're not listening to anything else. Yeah, that's why. Otherwise, we're going to get feedback if we go without. And you here, give you a chance here. I should probably put it off. Yeah. For those who do not have it, we're going to put the call-in link in there again. Just to do it because we do like to hear your wonderful voices. It's a lot easier than me stumbling over the words you type. It'd be a lot easier that way. So let's look at a couple other clips. We're kind of walking through the movie and pulling out themes. Sherry has the first theme here picked out, and that was
the value of human life.
The value of human life. Let me go back to where she has this here. Yes. The value of one human life, not just life in general.
Yep, the inalienable value of a human life.
Right. Even willing to lay down your life for someone else at that point. So,
I mean, he's 50 million miles away from home. He thinks he's totally alone. He thinks we gave up on him. I mean, what does that do to a man psychologically? What the hell is he thinking right now?
I'm definitely gonna die up here if I have to listen to any more god-awful disco music.
My God, Commander Lewis, couldn't you have packed anything from this century?
Yeah.
It's a joy just coming through, just finding funny things in some sections, being able to laugh at it.
That would be something that would be difficult too. I don't know how many of you, I'm going to put this up as a question to everybody in the comment section here. When you're alone at home, do you ever turn on the TV or radio or something, or just have something going on in the house? It's just not so quiet, and you don't feel alone, that there's activities. I've had a large family, and whenever I'm alone by myself in the house, it about near drives me nuts, because when we had our kids, we had so many kids. It was never quiet in that. Well, certain time at 3 o'clock at night, if we didn't have babies, maybe it was quiet. But for the most part, it wasn't. So I imagine he's doing this with the music, and he also has a little Rover guy from either Spirit or Opportunity. He got that, and he's just going around and around in circles, just so there's some activity, like a little pet, you know?
Yeah, Robo Pet.
Little Robo Pet. That was cool. So yeah, just keep things going at the same time. So what's going on in his life? Yeah, disco.
At the same time, music has a critical effect on survival as well. You can lift your spirits. That's one of the things that if you get lost in the woods, if you're in a group or just by yourself, singing is critical.
Yeah, it is. And you also know that that's the other thing too, is Christians are never in solitary confinement. We always have somebody, we always have God with us, and we are aware of, 10,000 angels and so forth around us too. Here's another clip too. This is actually a clip earlier. We're talking about his steadfastness, his desire to solve the problem here. And we have here this is one of my favorite lines.
I got to figure out a way to grow 3 years worth of food here on a planet where nothing grows. Luckily, I'm a botanist. Mars will come to fear my botany powers.
Such a dork.
No, it worked for him though. You imagine
For a
most
while.
other people wouldn't be. I don't think I could survive that.
No,
I mean, we got a farm and stuff like this, but I couldn't do what he did.
Nope.
Not knowing the information he had. Now, maybe it was written down in a book or something like that. We could do that. So I'm going to put that open up to you guys too. As we're going through here and we're looking for more themes, another question you can ask is, what would you do in this situation if you were stuck there?
Probably die.
I don't think I would have survived.
No.
Not having his skill level.
Nope.
So
Definitely not.
of all the
And
people
his
to leave
insane
behind,
amount of luck.
yeah,
And
Yeah.
insane amount of disluck for hitting a storm that
But-
should never exist on the planet.
he does have a weakness though.
What, fire? Because he already blew himself up.
No, you can see he survived the fire. There's one other thing. He definitely cannot survive.
The point is, I'm not cold anymore. And sure, I could choose to think about the fact that I'm warm because I have a decaying radioactive isotope riding right behind me, but right now I got bigger problems on my hands. I have scoured every single data file on Commander Lewis's personal drive. This is officially the least disco song she owns.
See, he does have a weakness. This is his kryptonite going forward.
Disco music.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that would be pretty rough. But he does tend to like it after a while, I think. After a while, you'd have to do something.
If that's the only thing you can listen to, you're listening to it nonstop.
I don't think there's a Christian
Eventually.
theme here. I really don't. But we'll try anyway. Yeah, buddy. Start grooving into it. There you go. Can't fight it? You might as well join it.
It's kind of funny listening to that on a frozen planet.
Yeah, well, because
He just
remember what he did?
got
He
heat
dug that
right
up.
before. Yeah, he just got his heat going.
Yes.
There you go. It's poetic.
Yes. All right, Sherry. Sherry's going to give us another theme here. Now she's already the winner so far. She's already picked it out. Remember Wilson on Castaway theme,
Yep.
Importance of companionship. Yes.
And of slowly going nuts.
Yeah,
What's that
I
too?
think he was fresh out of volleyballs on this one. They didn't bring any volleyballs to
Nope.
Mars, so he has to think of something else to do instead. Okay, so they groove into disco, and then finally finding out a new means of communication. How are you going to work this out? He discovered that if he takes this Spirit of Opportunity, this other probe that was there, and it can still communicate back to Earth, even though all his communication is down. He can scavenge something else there on Mars itself, and then use that. But it's very limited in its ability to communicate.
Yes. No. Okay. Point the camera at yes.
32-minute round trip communications time. All he can do is ask yes, no questions. No, all we can do is point the camera.
Yes! Yes!
You got to imagine that would be a huge.
Huge.
I mean, it does just a little bit of communication there, being able to do this. Now, here I would pull this out as a theme here, and this is I would look at this and say, see how excited he was to be able to communicate back home, how much God has gone through to be able to restore a relationship with us, even to the point of self-sacrifice on his own half to give us a way of communication to him. That's huge. That's huge. And to see the excitement here, to know that, hey, yes, he's finally able to communicate to people back home. I mean, that's pretty big. That would be. Yeah. So you can extrapolate this out if you're watching this movie with somebody else and say that there was that much effort to try to go back, like Sherry said earlier, the value of one human life. And here is the value of communicating, relationship with one to another, that kind of partnership that God wants to have with us. In partnership, we're not on the same level. You got to be careful how you say that, but he strives for the bride of Christ. He wants that eternal companionship with us. So hot stuff, disco, yes. But that one level of communication, this is another part where the engineering principles come through. Figure out a better way to communicate. Just getting a camera that can rotate like this and just yes and no. Okay, that's binary. That's going to give you something. But it takes a long time. It's like 32 minutes to get an answer back.
Okay, in half an hour I'll respond to you.
Yeah. And be able to, because they have
no, it's an hour actually.
Back and forth?
Because you have it both ways.
Yes.
So you would put your sign up and they start a timer for about an hour. You'll have a response back from them. So that
would be rough.
It'd take a long time.
That's right. That's right.
So I can make an alphabet. It can't be our alphabet. 26 characters plus a question card into 360 gives us 13 degrees of arc. That's way too narrow. I'd never know what the camera was pointing at.
Hexadecimals to the rescue. I figured one of you guys kept an ASCII table lying around. And I was right. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you super nerd Bethio handshake.
So how many other movies that mentioned the ASCII table?
None. I don't know anything off the top of my head.
This is great, and all right. So if you start dumping all this techno babble on somebody, it wouldn't be exciting at all. But if it is the key for somebody's rescue to be able to communicate, that's cool. Hexadecimal code, that's awesome. So I'm not going to go into the details what hexadecimal numbers are. Plus, that'd be fun for me.
No one.
I don't think it'd be fun for anybody else.
That
would be. So, but it worked out for him. So he was able to get a better code for it and everything. Again, still keeping our eyes open for any Christian themes. Man, I would give anybody bonus points if they could pull out a Christian theme or parable based on hexadecimal numbers and the ASCII table. I mean, if you can do that, you are the chief nerd for a year, and a Christian chief nerd to be able to pull that off.
Question is, do you actually want that title?
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. If you don't, I'll take it because, that'd be good. Okay, I need to preface this scene a little bit more. So this is further on into the show, and just as they upgraded their communication level from a yes and no, it takes 32 minutes plus to an hour for them to be able to get the communication going. And then going up the next level, doing hexadecimal, and they can keep doing this around. So you do one letter at a time. They were able to up it again to a better form of communication using different methods, and actually able to get full-blown text transmitted. And this is a scene where that happens. And we were talking about communication. I think this extends the theme earlier we were talking about of God being able to communicate to us. And how often have we looked up to God and say, Lord, just give me an answer. Just please tell me what's going on here. What do I need to do? Sign. Just give me a sign. Yes, I should have brought that in. But seriously, to hear back from him, the amount of joy to have that established. The Old Testament, you had sacrificed animals. It takes blood for the remission of sins. But the animal sacrifices only did things temporarily, short time, and direct communication with God was high priest in the Holy of Holies once a year, Yom Kippur, to go in there. And that was after all the shedding of blood of all these animals, because it took something more powerful than animal blood to do it. That was the blood of Jesus, and to offer that full communication. Sometimes we don't. I think sometimes we take that for granted that's there, but it has. And here's the scene where you could just point out that and say, it's so important to finally get that level of communication. And you could just see it in his face when it finally comes through.
Okay. Glad to hear it. Really looking forward to not dying.
Yeah. Again, that joy, that joke, just more jokes.
Right. So we've got two themes so far that we've dug out of this. I think Sherry has one. Is the value of single human life, and that really is the whole theme of the story. How much they were willing to go through to get that. And another theme here is the joy of and treasure of communication with God that stands out. So I missed one from Prowl here. I'm going to put this up. We were talking about the grooving it before with hot stuff and disco music. And then Thomas Hall said, what's interesting I found is the more you communicate with God through prayer, the better you hear. The opposite is also true. Yes. And yep. I think another thing is important here too to mention is reading the word. The more you're into the word of God, the more you become in tune with his voice. It's so interesting. The children know their mother's voice. You can have a crowd of people, and a child will know the mother's. The same thing with the mother knowing the child's voice. We have sheep, and we've just had a bunch of lambs, and they'll communicate. You'll see the mother, the ewe, and the lamb will communicate back to each other. They're very noisy, and they'll go back and forth. But of all the lambs out there and all the ewes, each one knows his mother's voice because they're in tune to it. And the same thing with our relationship with God. The more we hear his voice, reading the word, the more we're in tune. And also prayer then is essential. So maybe this is an addition to that previous theme, which is hearing the word, the voice of God, is the more we pray and the more we're in his word, the more we're in tune with hearing from him. So, from hearing from God.
She's alive.
I left him behind.
No, we don't live together.
You were following orders. I left him behind.
What would you do in a situation like that? We saw the earlier scene where he was knocked out basically by that antenna, that radar dish that hit him. And for all intents and purposes, he was dead. He would have only survived a minute without the suit. If the suit would become depressurized. They have to get out. Their lives of everybody else is threatened by their escape vessel tilting and would be able to recover. Would you have done anything different if you were in the commander's shoes? Would you have searched for him more?
Too great of a risk to everyone else.
Okay. And you
gotta cut your losses at a certain point.
I'd be curious for those in the chat too, what your response is for that. She's self-recriminating. This is the commander. And she's thinking that I blew it. Because they were finally told belatedly that he was still alive. NASA had made the decision. The director of NASA said, we cannot tell the crew because it would distract them. I think that was a mistake. I think they should have showed him earlier. And Boromir agreed with me on that one. And by the way, we're going to do a little bit of Lord of the Rings here because we have Sean Bean is one of the NASA scientists. We'll have images of him later. He also played Boromir in the Lord of the Rings. So there's
so many Lord of the Rings references.
There are some in here, and we'll hit those. But he was saying you got to tell them, and finally do tell the crew. And when they do, then the commander is very hard on herself for leaving him behind. But I think you also need a leader that says, I have to make a decision. It may not be the right decision, but there's a point where you have to.
You have to make a decision for the benefit of the rest of the crew.
And even if you find out later that it was not, she would, even if she knew that he was alive at that point, I think they were everybody else was in jeopardy. They didn't have much of a choice that they had to go down. So if you agree with me, please let me know in the chat. And then, they do have now better communication with Mark down on the surface with NASA back at Earth. And I think his response to everybody telling him how he should grow his plants was a good answer.
So now that NASA can talk to me, they won't shut up. They want constant updates on every HAB system. And they got a room full of people trying to micromanage my crops, which is awesome. Look, I mean, I don't mean to sound arrogant or anything, but I am the greatest botanist on this planet. So.
I love that phrase. Greatest botanist on this planet.
Okay, so now we have another one. Sherry's on a roll here. She said, theme you just stated, dealing with guilt to move on.
Yeah, it's not guilt as in he is blaming her. It's very clear in the messages that he doesn't blame any of the crew. He understands that they needed to leave him. They needed to go at that time. It's herself blaming herself.
Yeah. And
it's self-guilt, which you need to have some forgiveness even for yourself. Because sometimes it is the same with a lot of people. They are very quick to forgive other people, but when it comes to themselves, not at all.
I think it's good to have introspection and self-evaluation on this too, but there gets to be a point where it can be so way too crippling and not be able to do it. She, as a leader, had to make a decision. She had to walk through. You still listen to your people, but you have to be decisive, especially in important situations like that. And then the enemy, one of the names of Satan is the accuser. He the accuser of the brethren. He just comes down. He doesn't have many powers left. He's been stripped of power. So he's doing guerrilla warfare with whatever he has left and basically only has words to use. And if he can make you feel like you're worthless, you're wrong, you can't do anything, you can basically disarm your enemy with your words because your enemy can become so crippled in this. So yeah, we have possibly a third theme here. I'm not sure exactly how you would phrase that, but the third theme being
self-forgiveness.
Self-forgiveness, yeah, on situations, and that would be one of them. So he's going to be getting a new supply ship, and this supply ship is going to be delivering his salvation. Basically, he's going to be able to live until he's rescued, because they're going to drop ship supplies, food, other things that he could live on. But like most things in this movie, anything that can go wrong
will go wrong.
Will go wrong.
We're getting a little shimmy flight.
Say again?
We are getting a very large precession.
Are we good?
Flight is hitting the red line. Spinning on the long axis around a 17-degree precession.
Launch. What's happening?
Force on Iris is 7 Gs. You lost readings on the full flight.
Yeah.
Well, that wasn't supposed to happen.
No, not good at all. So, like I say, anything that can go wrong will go wrong in this situation. And Thomas Hall said, this is humor is definitely a gift from God. We take for granted it can be a form of hope. Yeah. Especially in hopeless situations like this, having some form of hope would be good. Now, we just saw hope destroyed in this situation. Is he all right?
He was not on that.
He was
ship.
not on the ship. That was from the
all the supplies that were going to go to him. Those were on the ship.
Yes, his extra food and stuff. And they give a reason for why that is, why the ship blew up. But no, that was just his supply ship that was supposed to come. He's still stuck on Mars, waiting for a rescue. Now,
where do you put your hope?
Ooh.
Where do you put your hope? I mean, seriously, he put his hope in this rescue that's going to come save him. This plan they had, this human plan, and it blew up in their face because they cut corners. Yeah, there's a reason why they cut corners. There's a pretty good reason why they cut corners. But they cut corners, it bit him in the butt, and his hope's lost.
Yeah, but I wouldn't necessarily, because we put our hopes and trusts in all sorts of things. Ultimately, our hope and trust should be in God. But from a practical standpoint, if I get up in the morning, I'm going to go to work and get in my car, I'm going to trust the fact that the engineers who put that vehicle together did a good enough job to get me to work. Doesn't always happen, right? But I mean, we have to trust in some things.
Oh
right?
no, yeah, but his trust for his salvation, for his rescue, was in that.
Well, he is still trying to, if not them, then through his own ingenuity to discover ways to get out, and that does generally work for him, right?
Sometimes he blows himself up. I mean, seriously, we just watch his ingenuity not go so well.
That is true. Lesson of the day: don't cut corners. And Chewbacca was the only casualty. Sad. Let's have a moment of silence for the late Chewbacca. So this is once he's faced again with despair. This was his hope, because he had something else happen to his food supply. I'm not going to get into, because that was another part of the story where it had come down. The supply ship was going to be the thing that was going to save him, because he was not going to be able to go through. His crops were destroyed. So this was it. And he's facing despair. And like just we'd seen earlier, when he turned around and said, I'm going to fight this. This is a different way of accepting what's coming down the pipe.
Dying for something big and beautiful. And greater than me. Tell them I said I can live with that.
Something bigger than him.
Something more. Something eternal.
Yeah. Now, I'm not sure if in this case he's actually talking about it in that regard, but that is the truth. There's something bigger. We can we can face death because there's hope that we have that goes beyond just, I hope someone puts a memorial in my name and maybe that memorial will last for several generations, or I am living vicariously through my children and through their memories. But do you remember your fifth great-grandfather, your fifth great-grandmother on your mother's side? No. So maybe there is residual learning and teaching that you got handed down from generation to generation. But if that's all that survives, there's really not a whole lot of hope in that.
Unless you're part of the chain of narration for the Hadith, then you know your great ancestors as if you lived with them.
Oh, okay. Okay, we'll go with that. But here's another thing too, is coming to grips with death, being able to face death head on. And that's an excellent question to ask any atheist or non-Christian, is how do you face death? Knowing that in your mind, that's the end. And it's a cessation of life. It's finished. It's complete. Boom. That's it. That's all you wrote. You're not going to, nothing else is going to happen to you. Whereas a Christian has a hope for eternity, and this is only the beginning. Someone once said that the earth is the only hell a Christian will ever know, and heaven is the only, earth is the only heaven a non-Christian will ever know.
Oof.
So
Rough.
this is it for them. He goes on. Now, this is the next scene. It's like, I had to put this in two parts. And this is why I would have downgraded the movie.
他们的宇航员将会饿死的。
当然，还有其他的办法。太阳神的助推器，我们的工程师检查过数据，它的容量可以到达火星的轨道。
NASA 为什么没有找我们？
因为他们不知道，我们的数据是绝密的。
So the idea here is that the Chinese, out of the benevolence of their heart, are going to come to rescue the astronauts. Because now, here's a question I have for you, and we're going to watch the rest of this little scene here in a bit. And keep this in mind. I don't want to get too political here, but basically this is pandering to China, maybe to get more sales within China. Hollywood is known to do that, to try to buddy up with them. We looked at the case of Mulan and some of the problems with that, of the live action Mulan, pandering to China. So I want to be very upfront with this and say, would China actually do this? Would this be something that would be within I'm not talking about the Chinese people. I'm talking about the Chinese Communist Party.
Oh, you know how many nonprofit organizations they funded and how many outreaches they funded and how many, disaster reliefs they funded. Yeah.
Well, they are doing, okay. So there are a lot of initiatives in Africa that China is doing, but it appears to be for political gain and not for others. So that's why I would say, I just like,
Granted, the PR from this would be great.
Yeah, knowing what's really going on in China and how they really preach, they wouldn't give up this information, this technology freely. And we'll continue watching this scene, see what happens here.
也就是说，假如我们什么都不做，
世界将永远不会知道，其实我们是可以帮得上忙的。
那么，仅仅是为了论证，如果我们决定帮助他们，
我们把助推器给了他们，也就是取消了太阳神计划。
那我们就从航天的角度来解决问题，寻求合作。
So, out of the benevolence of our own hearts, we're going to make the decision to expose our technology because we're all scientists in the long run. Now, I would love it if that were the case. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, but he'd have to get sign off from his uppers.
Yes.
And even if he has a good heart, and don't doubt there are people, I'm not saying there aren't people in China with good hearts.
Right.
And you get into more and more power, the less and less of them seem to be there.
That's true. That's true. So this is where I would have looked at this and said, I I don't think this is really the case that they would actually do this. But you know what? Let's go. Now, we mentioned this earlier about the Lord of the Rings. And this is probably one of the funniest, to me, one of the funniest scenes here.
So dorky.
Knowing who one of the actors is in this scene.
What the hell is Project Elrond?
I had to make something up.
Yeah, but Elrond?
Because it's a secret meeting.
How do you know that? Why does Elrond mean secret meeting?
The Council of Elrond is from Lord of the Rings. It's
Lord
the
of-
meeting where they decide to destroy the One Ring.
We're gonna call something Project Elrond. I would like my code name to be Glorfindel.
Okay, I hate every one of you.
So I, Sean Bean, who played Boromir, is here as he's the one speaking. I think it's just funny. It's just over the top. Does take you a little bit out of the movie, but a little fan service there. I think it was worth it. So checking back on the chat. So is there a theme there with the Lord of the Rings that we can get into?
Not
I don't
really.
know.
Secret organizations should be named after Lord of the Rings groups.
Yes.
And all the secret names should be some sort of elven name.
Sherry said, I'm going to put this up anyway. Never called into any show ever. I'm a nerd, but not clever like you guys. Should I give it a try? Yes.
We're literally flying by the seat of our pants.
Absolutely.
Well, he's got notes. I'm flying by.
I do have notes, but I've pretty much thrown them out the window. We're just going scene by scene this time. So yes, please. And I think you got some encouragement here. Thomas like, yo, do it. Thomas like, I'm not going to do it, but you go for it. So here. Oh, you're going to put that in. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. There's the call-in link just to go for it. Yeah, chime in whenever, especially with the whole Lord of the Rings thing. I thought that was fantastic. And get rid of the comments. Put that up there.
There we go.
There they are. Okay, so we're going to add you to the screen here.
Welcome.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Y'all doing okay?
Yes, I heard a y'all there. So
are you getting feedback or anything that I need to go get headphones? Because I didn't prepare for the headphones before the device told me I probably should have headphones.
I'm not hearing anything.
There's a little bit of ringing, but I don't think it's bad at all. I think you were fine.
That might just be the cicadas.
Okay.
Do it.
So are we? I don't want you to reveal your location, but I'm curious. I did hear a y'all, and we have cicadas.
Oh yeah, I'm a native Texan living in Alabama.
Well, welcome, and hopefully the weather is good for you down there. I know this time of year it starts probably getting a little steamy, depending on where you are.
Yes, it has been.
Okay, I spent when I was a kid. I spent a couple of years in Mississippi, right off of the Gulf Coast. We had a bayou, and I wouldn't say in our backyard, but right past our backyard. We can get on a little boat and head out to the Gulf from there. So yeah, it was humid and always smelled like shrimp or something, or maybe a stale or bad fish. So I appreciate your insight. You've already brought up a couple of good themes here. And so this is like I said, this is the goal of the channel, to be able to pull these out using modern day stories to discover parables that we can pull out, and we can use those as examples to other people. Say, hey, it's just like this. It was just like that example, and bring out kingdom principles that we can share with other people. So yours are good so far. So did you have any other insights that you want to bring out before I go to the next clip?
No, I think I'm just enjoying the ride.
Okay.
Absolutely love your channel.
Yeah, I didn't know. Eric here is the one who suggested the change in format. He said that this might be a good way to get more interaction stuff. We'll give it a shot and see how things go. And just like I say, next week looks like we're doing Interstellar, to your chagrin. But we'll see where we go from there. All right, so the next one, we had China, Council of Elrond, which is probably one of my favorite scenes. And then we get a glimpse of how this lack of food and the survival has impacted Mark during his whole time there. And this might be where they get their R rating, which I think is a little crazy, but I cut it. Poor guy. You imagine being in that kind of situation.
Hard rations.
But he keeps up his attitude during the whole thing. And let me ask you, Sherry, have you seen this movie recently then?
I was watching it this morning again.
Okay.
And then prior to getting on your channel, I was watching it in 2 times speed to try to finish it.
You're an inspiration. So, yeah. Now, let me ask you as a little plug here. Let me ask you: would you do you like this type of movie? That the science fiction aspect? Is this something up your alley?
Absolutely, it is.
Okay. And do you read? Do you read stories as well, or just pretty much watch the movies or shows?
No, I've been an avid reader too. Though in the last couple of years since the pandemic, I've really been reading more of apologetics types of books and material. But my background is I started reading Star Trek novels when I was in 1st grade, and I just kept on in that genre, fantasy, sci-fi.
Okay. Well,
love these kinds of things. I like them clean, so I find myself a lot in the youth section.
Okay.
Of library, because I don't like filth, right? So.
Yeah. Good choice. So a little bit of a shameless plug here. I have the first short story that's coming out 1st of July, then August. There's another one, September, October. So 1, 2, 3, and then the first novel is coming out in November. So this is all pumping through, and I am looking for advanced readers. And maybe some beta readers later on too. So we're building this up. I already do have a crew that we're going through. I'm just looking for others and see where it goes from here.
Heard you announce that, so looking forward to obtaining a copy.
Cool. All right. So in the next scene, this is another one of keeping up good spirits during this whole thing. And I had to break this up into 2 sections. We'll look at the first one. And what does he do at this point?
I've been thinking about laws on Mars. There's an international treaty saying no country can lay claim to anything that's not on Earth. And by another treaty, if you're not in any country's territory, maritime law applies. So Mars is international waters. Now, NASA is an American non-military organization. It owns the HAB. But the second I walk outside, I'm in international waters.
Yeah. So this is building up to something he's going to just say a bit later. And I think this does all make sense. What his explanation is. We have a comment here from Thomas Hall. He says, "What's Sol 461?" And you want to? Do you know what that is?
That's
is that not just the day? Yeah.
Yes.
He's counting the days. Yeah.
Right. Now, I'm pretty sure that's Earth days.
Earth days, yeah.
So 24-hour.
I don't know why it's Sol.
Period. Sol being the Latin word for the sun, because we're
the sun, yes, that makes sense, but why would it be Sol days?
Why would it say Terra days
or Earth days or whatever?
Right.
Because that would make a lot more sense. It's not like you're counting the number of
revolutions
around the sun. It's not like years,
but it wouldn't be in sync. I didn't see what the day, I should have checked before we jumped on tonight, is what the period of revolution, what the day would have been on Mars. I think it's a little bit longer than what is. I think it might be like 26 hours or something. Either way, it's not going to be 24. I'd be surprised if it was. And so that would be hard for calculations, because you want to be in sync with what's happening in NASA to say that it's the same calendar date that what you have. And the other thing is, I would imagine that our bodies would not become in sync if they had a longer day. It'd be 26 days, maybe 26 days. Your body can acclimatize to that. Otherwise, you're going to be off.
Reference for the audience would be horrible, and you don't want any confusion to the audience.
No.
That would be what I would suspect them to have done.
No, so that's a good question. So we're going to continue on with what he said there about the whole pirate thing. Where is it? There it
Here's
is.
the cool part. I'm about to leave for the Schiaparelli crater where I'm going to commandeer the Ares 4 lander. Nobody explicitly gave me permission to do this, and they can't until I'm on board the Ares 4. So that means I'm going to be taking a craft over in international waters without permission, which by definition makes me a pirate. Mark Watney, space pirate.
You got
dun dun dun.
So he's going to commandeer this other craft. Now he needs to, because that's his way to get off. So we're at the point now where his crew that was heading back to Earth, they decided to turn around, come back, rescue him. And doing that, though, there's a lot of other logistics that you're coming. He can blast off using this other vehicle that was left previously. Why they would leave an entirely...
Well, it wasn't. It was for the future. They sent this ahead of a future expedition.
Okay.
So this was already there. They just decided to start sending things ahead for a future.
Okay. Well, that would work. But he's going to use that to get back. Now, he's going to be launching off at a high speed. The ship that's coming back that his crew was in is coming back at a high speed. Imagine them trying to, like, 2 bullets, and you're going to try to get them to intersect and be able to connect and not kill each other at the same time, be able to come at the same relative velocity to each other and be able to dock.
Good luck.
Yeah. That's going to be tough.
Going to be hard.
And I won't go into too many details, but in order to be able to get the velocity he needs, he need to strip down the ship to be able to do it. And in so doing, he couldn't even pilot the ship. It had to be piloted remotely. And we're going to see a scene here during the launch. He's got all sorts of holes in this just because he had to make it light enough so he can hit a higher orbit so he can meet the Ares, that's the other ship that's coming by, right? So, again, looking at, I'm not sure if we're going to be able to pick up any themes. We're coming to the end of the movie. We already got some great ones here that we can pack and use and point to this movie and say, hey, guys, check this out. Here's some deeper messages. So he's going to launch.
About 2 minutes, Watney. How you doing down there?
I'm good. I'm anxious to get up to you. Thanks for coming back for me.
Well, we're on it. Remember, you'll be pulling some serious G, so it's okay to pass out. Capcom, go. Remote command.
Go.
Recovery.
Go.
Secondary recovery.
Go.
Pilot.
Go.
Okay, so here he is launching, and you can see the emotion in his face as he's going through this. He's been there over a year alone, and he's finally being able to do this. And this is, again, the communication that we can have with God, the sacrifice that he's made for us to be able to have this relationship with us. You can imagine, just like him stranded here, is like we can finally have this direct communication with God. We can finally have this relationship with him, and it's for eternity. It's not just for a temporary time. So that's a cool thing, but he's got to get there first. And so how easy is that going to be?
No.
And Sherry,
good luck with that.
You've already seen this part, so you know what's going to happen here.
I do, and I see someone reaching out to bring him in when he's pondering. Yeah.
Okay. So let's go with that. Let's run with that.
Yeah.
Okay. So someone went out of their way. They're willing to sacrifice their lives to save him. And again, this is a crew of, I think there were 5 on that crew, because I think it was number 6.
It was number 6, yeah.
If I remember right. Okay. So they're coming out, greater number to sacrifice a fewer number. So greater. God is greater than us, sacrificing himself so he can have a relationship with us. And they actually didn't sacrifice. They could have, though.
She comes out of the craft like Jesus came to the earth to redeem us to himself.
Awesome. Yeah, that's I don't have that clip now that you mention it. I wish I would have, but she reaches out to him. She's still suffering some guilt here, so she feels responsible for that. But God, and here's the other thing too with God is that he knew this. He knew what it was going to cost him. It was a terrible cost too, the cross. He knew that before he created us, before the foundation of the world. So even knowing that ahead of time, it wasn't like a last minute thing. It's like, oh man, now what I'm going to do? No, he knew that beforehand. He still did it. So here we're going to see what happens with the launch. Does it go? It's going to go smoothly. Everything else is going smoothly here, right? So
no
this is
problem.
Absolutely, positively going to go smoothly.
T-minus 10, 9.
Main engine start.
8, 7. 1 times release. About 5 seconds, Watney. 2, 1.
Woohoo! Yes, not quite there yet, but getting close. Getting close to that sacrifice being made. Now, I'm going to check the chat real quick. We had a couple of other comments here. Now, this was Proud32 said, hey, look at that. He has a beard now, and then he doesn't have a beard anymore. And
that's a quick one.
And, well, I mean, it was a long time, right? And Thomas said, dare I say it? He needs one way. The needs of the one outweigh the needs of the many. Okay, so for you nerds, where does that come from?
Oh, come on. Star Trek,
yes.
Right?
Yes. Okay. Yes. Okay. So Spock was especially with the Wrathicon, especially known for that one, right? So the way the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one or the few, and this is flipped on its head. They're doing the needs of the one outweigh the needs of the many. So they're doing something that the Vulcans would say, don't do this. It's not worthwhile, right? I guess that's what you're saying, Thomas, right? Because I was thinking about that earlier, but it didn't bring it up. And then we have, what's this one, Chandler? Okay, I just want to read it here before I put it up. A Christian take on someone using reason and science to save their life.
Yeah, God gave us reason. God also gave us science, considering that Christianity is the one that started science to begin with.
Well, I would say there's a lot of early scientists that were Christians that contributed largely to that. So yeah, I would say that's a worthwhile statement. So he goes up and makes it. And then there's some follow up then later. Oh, one more. Finally, out in space and seeing the stars clear like that. Of course, everything comes off. And Sherry, if you remember right, there was the disadvantage of reducing the amount of weight he had there. It was no longer aerodynamic, right? Especially with the tarp coming off like that. And because of that, he wasn't able to reach altitude like what they expected. So, and I wish I had that one scene now that you mentioned of her reaching out to him. But we're going to close with these last two, and then we're going to talk about next week. But there was two more scenes that were, one more scene that was broken up into two sections, I think, that are worthwhile. And this really brings some things into focus, I think.
The other question I get most frequently is, when I was up there, stranded by myself, did I think I was going to die? Yes, absolutely. And that's when you need to know going in, because it's going to happen to you. This is space. It does not cooperate. At some point, everything's going to go south on you. Everything's going to go south, and you're going to say, this is it. This is how I end. So
facing death, how do we how would we face death? We talked about all the opportunities that he had there, the perseverance he had to be able to science it out or engineer it out, and to be able to work a rescue out for himself in there. But there are some things that we can't do on our own, or even as human race, that we can't find a solution ourselves, and we need some outside help for. And so maybe that's another theme here too, is to be able to look for outside help, because we can't do everything. Even he had to do that. He's the greatest botanist on the planet, but still he needed outside help to get rescued. And I'm going to open this up for any last thoughts, and then we're going to, there's a couple of things I want to cover here to make sure that we have.
Can I say something?
Yeah, definitely.
I was just thinking that in his speech there that he's giving, he is talking to them specifically about the dangers of going into space, and how someone who makes that kind of a choice is headed toward danger and stuff. But and he talks about headed toward the possibility of death. But the truth is, we're all headed that way. No matter how young or old we are, we're all headed toward death. And so we all have to think about our mortality. You need to consider your eternity, because we're all headed there, no matter how old or young we are. We're all headed toward that one thing, unless Jesus takes us first in the rapture or something like that. So
right, yeah, and that really brings up a good point. There's probably this movie more than others. You see people come face to face with that. I mean, you see that in any action movie, any thriller. The main character or a bunch of other people are facing death, and something's chasing them. They need to get away. But this is more realistic, and you see how he had the possibility of dying alone. I think it makes it that more poignant to say that we all have a time limit that eventually runs out. How prepared are we for that? So, very good point.
Well, that's why you're the clever host, because you can put that in such better language than I can.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say.
That works. And we have Thomas Hall said Aslan naming, or excuse me, Adam, not Aslan. Adam naming the animals was the first scientific act. Yeah, I guess so. It's a method of
classification,
taxonomy.
Yeah,
is naming the animals.
I have a question for you about that.
Sure.
It came to me the other day as I was picking at Genesis a little bit. Do you suppose that the naming of the animals was a way to get Adam to recognize the need for companionship?
Ooh, good question.
That's a good question.
Yeah, so, God didn't need that kind of knowledge, right? So
No.
what was so if you consider it as an exercise in that God might have been doing something there that was for Adam's benefit,
So
not
he
for
could
his.
so he could understand, open his eyes to what his situation was. Being aware.
Just a thought.
of this.
Just a thought that
Well,
came
you
to me
look
the
at what happens next. Isn't that what happens next? He realizes that he would.
That's right.
He said,
It's very much.
they all have mates, right?
Yeah.
Except for me.
Very much. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think that might, and there's also, I think, a point of companionship here that God wants. He doesn't need Adam. God doesn't need Adam to do this, but he wants Adam to participate in the action, it's almost like a part of creation, that he's able to do the final touches. You're working on a project with your child, and you stand back and you say, why don't you name it? I mean, that's a sort of an honorific thing. It's like, you have the honor to do this. And by the way, it's like, wait a minute. I'm alone. So I think you're probably right with that. That does make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like that. The woman was an afterthought.
Yeah. No, I think that's some good insight. Thomas Hall said, also showing that God wants participation, like you just said. Yeah. So it's all good. Something to look forward to also. So speaking of looking forward to, we have coming up next week, we have, of course, the Forbidden video that I think I had to check. Yes, it does look like Interstellar is the one that we're going to be looking at. And then we also have this next Thursday morning. Now we're doing a Tuesday evening and Thursday morning because we're trying to hit two different crowds, 2 different times. The Acolyte. And yes, this thumbnail was chosen over the other one to the chagrin of some because, it didn't quite look balanced with the other one, not having a certain individual in there. So we added that. And we're not going to be focusing so much on the negative part of this and like, oh, yeah, Disney's ruined. And they have. They've ruined Star Wars. And, what's happening with the Acolyte. This is the latest rendition. It's more like, okay, now what? What are we going to do as believers? It could very well be, and this is a sneak peek, if they have this scorched earth policy of taking this franchise and basically burning it to the ground, that then leaves fertile soil for new things to come in. And we really do need new stories. And hopefully as Christians, we can interject some of those too. Some stories, either positive, maybe at the very least clean, maybe something with the message. Now, you got to be very careful as people delivering messages. You don't allow the message to overshadow the story. There's a real skill with that as well. But we're looking forward to that. And Sherry, I want to give you a special thanks for having the courage to join us. And we'll be doing this in the future. And hopefully it wasn't too scary for you because now you are internationally famous.
Oh, yeah, right. Yay, woohoo.
So until next time.
Thank you so much. Both of you.
Thank you very much. And hopefully with the apologetics that he does too. There's so many things exciting happening. Oh, we do have that conference. I don't know if you've seen that conference coming up. You want to say a word about that?
Yes, we have the Ohio conference coming up. We don't have Elle's video, but check that out on our channel.
I will be sharing her video later. Also, she did one with a bunch of testimonials. I was on there. So it was Eric. David Wood was on there. A bunch of others. Anthony Rogers. Who else do you want to mention that's going to be at the conference?
Hatun Tosh. These are all the speakers. Laura Powwow.
I don't know her.
Probably
I've never seen her
poor name. Yeah, so got a whole list. Go check it out.
Vocab Malone's going to be there.
Yep.
And a bunch of others. So we're looking forward to that, Sherry. Unfortunately, we're not in your neck of the woods, so we can't have you out here for that. We'd love to have you, but
you can fly in.
She
can come on over.
Yeah, it's a bit of a trip.
It's a bit of a trip, but it's worth it. You gotta go hang out with David and with Vocab and
that's true.
All the fun people.
Yes.
One day.
Yes, that'd be fantastic. Well, we'll see each other in heaven if nothing else, right?
Yep.
So
Indeed. We'll see you again on the live stream.
That's right. Bye-bye.
Bye.